When you talk about your people respecting you and loving you, it is a two-way street. Respecting and loving the people that you work with, I think, is what makes a successful leader. What distinguishes great leaders is not only solving the problems that are before us, but also being able to look around corners, being able to anticipate what are the issues that are likely to arise. You get off the dance floor and get up on the balcony and kind of see what's happening. And that's a good way to think about it. When you are in the thick of something, to separate yourself a little bit from it and try to look at it from a different perspective. My motto is to empower and inspire people. And it's amazing the amount of talent that we leave by the wayside if we don't open those doors and give people the opportunity to give up their best.
Hi, Archana. I'm so happy to have you here with me. I have admired you for such a long time, and we have known each other for many years. You've been a friend, a mentor, sponsor. You're somebody I really admire. Currently, you are the Dean of Chicago Medical Schools and Vice President for Medical Affairs there. And for past 20 years or so, you've held top leadership positions, including chair of the Department of Pediatrics and Senior Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs at the University of South Dakota Stanford School of Medicine, as well as Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs at Creighton University, where we work together, right? Mm-hmm. In addition, you hold several national positions. You are on the advisory board and committees, including U.S. Food and Drug Administration. You have made your presence known in top leadership circles. And my experience is that your people love you and they have great respect for you. So my question is, what is your personal leadership philosophy that led to this success?
Yeah, I get asked that question periodically, and I reflected on it a fair bit. I best can describe it as being a servant leader. And when you talk about your people respecting you and loving you, it is a two-way street. Respecting and loving the people that you work with, I think, is what makes a successful leader. But I've always looked at leadership positions as an opportunity to serve, as an opportunity to make a difference, and really take whatever organization I'm with, whether that's an institution I'm working for or it's a national organization of some kind, to really bring my knowledge, expertise, and experience to that role and to really elevate that organization, that institution, to be better than it was when I found it.
I certainly vouch for that, because every time there is an issue, you're not even looking at this is from a point of view of a leader, but you're trying to figure out how to troubleshoot this, how to get to where we want to go. And I think that's the kind of attitude we see in you and speaks to your servant leadership style.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of leadership is about solving problems, right? And so inherently, a lot of people are able to do that. I think what distinguishes great leaders is not only solving the problems that are before us, but also being able to look around corners, being able to anticipate what are the issues that are likely to arise, being prepared for that, preparing others to face those challenges, because we all know we work in complex organizations. These challenges are going to come. Yeah. How are we getting our people ready to face those challenges?
Yeah. Being a leader with supportive hands, giving them the support then when they need it, and letting them go when,
That's right. In really, in empowering people and inspiring them, I think that's my motto, is to empower and inspire people. And it's amazing the amount of talent that we leave by the wayside if we don't open those doors and give people the opportunity to give up their best.
Yeah. The other thing I really admire about you is that you see talent in everyone who is around you.
Because they have it. It's very simple. Because everyone has something to give, to contribute. And as leaders, our role is to allow that to flourish, to give them the confidence to speak up, to bring those talents forward.
Yeah, wonderful. For many years, research has shown that organizations with more women in leadership positions and executive roles outperform those where women are not well represented in higher circles. What are the benefits to having women in higher leadership roles?
Yeah, so as you pointed out, the literature on leadership is pretty clear. And even highly respected organizations like the Harvard Business Review have published papers that indicate that if you look at leadership competencies, they did this study a few years ago looking at men versus women, and they evaluated 19 different competencies. And on 17 of them, the women performed better than the men did. It's a very large study with thousands of C-suite level executives. And so it's pretty clear that whether it's in business or it's in government, in public health, in research, in academia, given the opportunity, given the chance, women will do as well, if not better, than men in leadership positions. I think this is not just an opinion that I hold. I think the empiric data support this fact. So it's unfortunate, I think, that we are not tapping into the talent that is out there. And there are a number of different reasons why that has happened. But it is changing. It's changing slowly. But we're starting to see improvements. And in our own field, in academic medicine, nearly a quarter of the deans of medical schools now are women. It's a far cry from what it used to be in past years. And again, the incremental increase has been slow, but it is steady. And we are starting to see these things change.
Yeah. So in your opinion, what differentiates women leader from men?
I wouldn't claim to be an expert on it, but from the reading I've done and my observations personally, I think there are a few things that women leaders tend to do that is different. And again, we are talking about a large group of people, and you can't generalize necessarily, but in general, women tend to be better listeners. And as you know, a big part of leadership is being a good listener and listening to learn, to understand. Most leaders have been told, or they know they're supposed to listen, but how well they listen is another matter. And I think women tend to be empathic listeners. They listen with the intent to learn and understand, and naturally tend to build consensus, build teams that work well together. And all of those things ultimately lead to the better results that women are able to get as leaders.
Yeah, definitely. Good listeners, team builders. I believe we are empathetic in a way we can relate to people better. At least, that's my experience in leadership roles as well as working with other leaders. So, yeah.
I'll give you an example. This is a very small thing, but this is something I've done for a very long time. I started out in my formal leadership roles within academic medicine in the U.S. as a division chief. There's a small division, a few people that reported to me. And I thought one of the ways that we should celebrate them was through having a little celebration of their birthdays. And that made apparently a big difference to them. They really thought that was very valuable.
Yeah.
So when I moved into the chair position, I had 300 faculty members. It wasn't possible to celebrate everybody's birthdays. But what I did do was send birthday greetings to my faculty members. And I received a lot of feedback from them saying, no department chair had ever bothered with wishing them on their birthday. And I've continued that practice in my current role as dean. Now, I have 1,800 faculty members. I cannot send personal birthday wishes to all of them. But to all of our senior leadership team, our employed faculty, the people who really are doing the human work at the medical school, I do send them, and I write these emails and send them myself. And the response has been amazing. I've had faculty members say to me, well, you sent me greetings before my mother sent me greetings on my birthday. It just means so much to them. I sent a message a couple of days ago to a former chair, and he's no longer working with us, but he sent me back a very nice note to say it's so important to feel valued in this way. So there's small gestures that we can show how much we care about people. It means a lot to them.
Right. What you're talking about are soft skills that are actually more important in leadership than some of the other so-called skills that people often look up to. And I know this for sure. You've said that to me 10 hugs a day.
Yes, I am an unapologetic hugger. So, yes, people do get, and people get surprised sometimes that, they don't expect the dean to give them a hug, but, it's good for our health, and it's good for our emotional health and for building those connections with people that we must build if we are to succeed.
Right. And I think as women, we tend to nurture our people, and we are not, shy about showing our emotions. And the example you giving goes to show that we are all human beings, and we all love to be appreciated, valued, to be seen, really.
That's right. That's right.
You have reached tremendous heights. And I'm sure there were times when you, in your career path, when you were afraid. You were afraid what will happen, how things will go, whether it's a personal or professional journey. Tell me a little bit about how you conquer your fears.
In general, I'm not a fearful person. I have anxieties just like everybody else does about things, and especially about things that are unknown or that I'm not able to really have much of an impact on. Those things are troubling to me. I find a couple of ways to handle those anxieties. One is really reflection on my own, trying to put things in perspectives. I'm an old lady now, and so I have many, many years of experience to look back on and think about times when I've had difficulties and how I was able to get through those times, and that none of these things really lasts forever, and most of them are not irrevocable things, even when things happen that we don't have control over, things like that. The other thing is to have a close group of people to confide in. So my family is very close to me. My husband, my daughter, them both. And my daughter has grown up now. She's a medical student. She's about to graduate medical school. So they provide me with excellent advice and counsel. And they are the people to whom I can say anything and not feel like I have to worry about, measuring my words and what I say to them, etc. I do have mentors that I still speak with on a fairly regular basis. And they provide that sort of external perspective. They are also longstanding colleagues and friends, most of them, and they know me well, and they've stood by me through thick and thin, through difficult times. So I do rely on them to provide me with good advice as well.
Reflecting on our past victories, challenges definitely gives us some courage to push forward, because after all, we did it once upon a time and we can do it again. And the other thing that is very comforting to me personally is that, this day will be over and the new day will come, and new set of opportunities will show up. So that's.
And I'll share a story here with you, which is a very common one for many residents. My first day of residency as an intern at the Children's Hospital in Omaha, I was scared to death. I was like, oh my gosh, there are all these kids, they're so sick. And I had a supervising resident, but she was in the ICU, and, I knew she was really busy. I probably couldn't lean on her too much. I was very afraid that I would either do something wrong or I would not do something that I was supposed to do, and it would harm a child. That was probably one of the most fearful nights that I spent. And the next morning, the sun came up, and I was in this little walkway between the two buildings that the hospital was in at the time. I saw the sun coming up, and I thought, okay, the night is over. I've survived. All the kids have survived. This is something I can do. So all of us go through those times, but eventually the sun does come up, and you're able to get over whatever the circumstances are at the time.
Exactly. Well said. As we were talking about conquering fears and doubts, you mentioned about mentors. Most recently, you shared a keynote address that you gave, and you talked about your mentors. What impactful lessons have you learned from your mentors?
Many. There are too many to recount here, but I'll just mention a few of them. I think one of the most important lessons I learned was to trust myself. This came from Dr. Chris Harrison, who was my mentor during my fellowship, actually. And he had moved on. He had moved to Kansas City. I was still in Omaha. And I was going through a fairly difficult time. So at the suggestion of my husband, I actually called Chris and said, these are the circumstances. This is what's happening. And, he was just able to reassure me and say, we know what you're capable of. And just keep doing the good work you're doing. And people will recognize it. And you're going to get over this. And having that sort of confidence from another person whom you respect, I think was tremendously helpful to me at that time. So just building up your own self-confidence. I think mentors do a really good job with that. Another mentor whom I value tremendously, Dr. Bartosanino, whom you also know, she's retired now, but she's always been a person to sort of make me challenge my own beliefs and hold up the mirror and say, okay, so this is what you're seeing now. And to see reality, not necessarily, make things much bigger than they are, to worry unnecessarily, things like that. So to really view things through a plain lens and not get overly concerned or distracted. So I think she's really good at doing that. So these are a couple of things that I found very helpful that my mentors do for me, have done for me.
Yeah. I believe when we are in the thick of things, we tend to develop a tunnel vision. And our mentors, our supporters, our close group of friends and family, they help us see a meta view, so to speak, a 30,000 feet view.
The way to put it.
And at that level, whatever you're going through seems small.
Yeah, there's a metaphor people use for it. It's part of something called adaptive leadership, which you've probably heard about. But basically what they say is, you get up on the balcony. You get off the dance floor and get up on the balcony and kind of see what's happening. And that's a good way to think about it. When you are in the thick of something, to separate yourself a little bit from it and try to look at it from a different perspective.
Yeah. I know Maya, your daughter. She's fourth-year medical student, beautiful and very capable, competent girl. And Apurva and Maya grew up together.
True.
Those were such nice times. We saw our girls growing up together, as friends. And you mentioned how you consult Summer, your husband, and Maya. Share with me a time when Maya gave you some advice.
Yeah, it actually happened fairly recently. This is a relatively recent occurrence. You'll recall a couple of years ago, the whole country was going through this. It was a very bad time. We were in the midst of the pandemic. And then all of the racial justice issues that arose in that summer of 2020. And I was new in my position. I barely knew anybody there. They didn't know me. We were trying to run the medical school virtually, which is quite a difficult task anyway. And for a new leader to come in and try and do that was really tough. And there were some issues that came up with our students. And she was at home at the time because she was doing her classes virtually. So she was with us in Chicago. And I was just talking about, how I was having difficulty connecting with my students. And she gave me some really good advice on how to talk to these young people, how to help them understand the person who she knew her mother to be, but they didn't. And they didn't have any way of knowing that. So the onus was on me to help my students understand where I was coming from, why I was doing the things I was doing, and how I was trying to help them during this very difficult time. So it was really important to have that young person's perspective, which I didn't necessarily have without that guidance from her.
Yeah. It's amazing how much we can sometimes learn from our children and how wise they have gotten over the years. And they're not kids anymore. They're young ladies, mature young women. And I am so proud of Maya.
Yours is already a doctor. Mine's going to be a doctor in a few months. I know. It's hard for us to think about those two little girls that we remember, but they are, and they have their own life experiences, their own expertise that they have developed. And we do need to respect them and all of our young people that I have great hopes for because they are going to be our future leaders.
Right. For that reason, and for many reasons, we need to continue to support our youth, continue to encourage our girls to step into unknown and be courageous.
Absolutely. I was talking to her yesterday. We're very close, like I said. So currently, I'm actually with her in South Dakota. We're spending some time with her, and I'm working from here virtually again. But we were talking about opportunities for leadership that are probably going to be available to her as a resident. And I was talking to her about the Association of American Medical Colleges, how they have an organization of resident representatives, how I learned about them and worked with them through the Group on Women in Medicine and Science, some of the projects that we worked on and things like that. And she was very excited because, it's very difficult for them to know about these things unless we tell them, right?
Yeah. Well, what a luxury to have a mom who not only loves and, is there for all their tantrums, so to speak, but also can give advice in this regard because you're so connected everywhere. You know a lot, and that's such a wonderful thing for Maya. Well, so I want to know, after being in leadership roles, and obviously, I'm talking leadership, but we are all women, wife, mother with personal challenges. I have been fortunate that you've shared some of those with me. Mm-hmm. What are you most proud of about your journey?
This is a difficult one to answer. It's kind of like I often liken it to, if I had more than one child, somebody asked me, which of your children do you like better? It's a tough question to answer. But I would say that the thing that I probably am the most proud of is that despite what I said earlier about the support I've had from family, from friends, from mentors and guides, that I have forged my own path myself. I didn't ride anybody's coattails. There are many, many people, as you heard me talk about in that CAS lecture that I gave at Eddie Week, that I am very grateful to for their support, for their guidance, for their help. But I really forged this path for myself. And the thing that I feel very happy about is when people seek out my advice and ask how they can forge their own paths, perhaps taking some guidance, some ideas from things that I've done. I feel very happy to be able to help others in that way.
Well, there are many things, many qualities that I admire about you. And one is courage. Courage and justice. They speak so loudly when I think of you. And we may not be able to speak with each other so frequently, but in times of need, I sometimes think, what would Archana do?
Oh my goodness. I think you placed me on too high a pedestal. I don't think I belong there.
Archana. So I'm not sure with such a busy life, you ever get to sleep that much. And if you ever sleep, do you dream?
Yeah. So, it's interesting. People sometimes ask me that, as I do acknowledge that I'm a very busy person. I do a lot of stuff. And people sometimes ask me, do you ever sleep? And I said, yeah, I wouldn't function if I didn't. I do sleep. I sleep well. For many years when I was in clinical practice, I was one of a very few pediatric infectious disease specialists in Nebraska and South Dakota. Sometimes I was the only one in South Dakota. I was there for several years as the only person there. It was very, very busy, and it was really difficult. And those are the years where I was really short on sleep. But no, I do sleep, and as you know, everyone who sleeps also dreams. That's part of sleeping. So yeah, I do.
What is your dream, the ultimate dream?
To leave the world a better place than I found it. I think that's the best way I can put it.
That's wonderful. And to leave the world in a better place, if God granted you a superpower, what would that be?
I thought about this a fair bit because we actually do this meet and greet with our future students, and our dean of admissions often asks this question. So this is a common question that I get asked. I think if I had the power to make everyone on this earth healthy and happy, so that's two, I guess, but I'd want that power to be able to do that.
Spoken like a physician, pediatrician, not as a mother, right?
Right. All of those things.
Yes, yes, yes. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Archana. And thank you for taking some time out to, speak with me and share your insight in leadership, in life.